Our theme for 2017 has been hope. What does hope look like for a woman who is pregnant and in crisis? We often see this season of pregnancy as exciting with great expectation. But if you are in a situation of domestic abuse or of homelessness, what if there wasn't income coming in? This can be a terrifying time. So what does hope look like? This is what we are going to look at today. This is Jay Hurst with DMV Experience, where we uplift, motivate, inspire, and encourage. Welcome back. I'm Jay Hurst, joined today with Frances Robin, the Executive Director of Carried to Full Term. Welcome, Frances.
Thank you for having me. It's
Awesome.
Good to be here.
Very happy to have you here. We're going to get started. Please tell me, what is Carried to Full Term?
The short answer to that, because I could be very long-winded, but Carried to Full Term is a maternity home, and we provide long-term housing for pregnant women in crisis. And so our mission is to provide long-term housing, but it's also focused on getting moms or women on a path to independence and self-sufficiency.
Okay.
And so we do help them with plans and programs to attain the end goal, which is independence and self-sufficiency. One of the things that we have learned and are learning to be better at is not reinventing the wheel. There are lots of services available through churches and the county and county government. Okay. So when a mom moves in with us after she's in process, we create a schedule for her, and we also identify her goals and interests. After she shares that, all the support that we provide is towards that end. And so an example would be if a mom comes in and she doesn't have her GED because she didn't finish high school, we have tutors who come in and they tutor her in various subjects to prepare her for the GED test. Cool. And we focus on that, and we spend a few months doing that until she sits the exam. And after she sits the exam and passes the test, then we focus on continuing education always, which whether it's through a technical or vocational program or a community college program.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Excellent services. How do you find these women, or how can they find you?
We received the keys back in June, but Carried to Full Term has existed on paper for quite a while. And as a result of receiving the keys to opening the first house, an article was printed on us initially by the Haymarket Lifestyle magazine. And I have to say, following the print and delivery of the magazine on the community's doorsteps, that facilitated a good 90% of the traffic. And so any given day, we would have had 50 to 80 individuals coming through the house, and we had a wonderful opportunities to share the vision and mission of Carried to Full Term with the community that way. And we have grown significantly as a result of that magazine article. And from the individuals coming through, word of mouth started spreading about us. Excellent. We do have a website, we do have social media, but primarily the word began getting out as a result of that article and individuals coming through the home and telling others about it.
Oh, wow. That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Question I have for you, for the purpose of what you're doing, tell me, how would you define a woman who is pregnant and in crisis?
Wow. Desperate, vulnerable, needy, not in the sense of grabbing onto you, needy, but need for stability for her family. Okay. And just ready for a hug. Regardless of all the things that we get engaged in the marketplace to discuss, when you actually interact with the people that are being directly impacted by crisis, it's different. So a mom coming to the house, and we get moms coming at any hour. We would like to schedule their arrival, which is primarily how it works. But there have been times when we have taken calls, and the situation is so grave that we have to have that mom come to the house immediately. And when she arrives, She doesn't care a lot about what your position on any issues or issue is. She is desperate and she's in need, and she needs housing. She needs to find stability for herself and her child to be born. And sometimes mom come to us and they have other children.
Okay.
And so they need that stability. They're in panic mode, and they just need stability.
Wow.
So those are some of the words I would use to describe mothers in crisis, especially when that nurturing spirit goes off in their being and they know they need to get somewhere to prepare for the arrival of the newborn. It takes on a different look in and of itself.
Wow. That's interesting. So I'm hearing desperation, the need, and vulnerability.
Yeah, definitely.
I think sometimes we don't associate vulnerability to being a place of crisis. So I appreciate you bringing that out.
Yeah.
For people who would say, well, she got herself into this, what do you say to that? How do you respond to that?
I try to inform and educate people who take that, and it's a natural thing, especially if it's not, if lifestyles or individuals in crisis mode are not they don't frequently cross your path. But I'm not even going to answer it from my own faith position or belief system. I'm just going to share stories from moms that we've spoken to. She got herself into it. We've had several moms come to us because they've aged out of foster care. So our moms come to us, they have to be 18 and over. So we've had several of them age out of foster care at 18, and they've been on the street or going from different couches or in cars or park benches because they haven't learned some things. And that's not to say individuals in foster care don't learn, but the moms that we've interacted with need housing, and of course naturally they came to us because they're pregnant. So when we hear their stories, several of them have aged out of foster care. Several of them have been abused from a very young age, so they didn't get themselves into a situation where they've been abused. Some of them were placed in homes, some of them foster homes, where they've been abused by foster parents. Some of them, they've been taken from family members and they've been placed in other family members' homes because they wanted to keep families together, and family members abuse them physically, mentally, sexually. Some of them, they've just made really bad decisions. Some of them, they've relocated to the area because they were encouraged to come to this area for jobs or support, but when they arrived pregnant. And so families aren't able to support or accommodate them and a baby or an expecting baby. Some of them are in abusive relationships. We're not a safe house, so we're not equipped to handle individuals that are in physically abusive relationships, but we refer them out to other resources where they could be safe. Some of them are in marriages and they're now on their third or fourth child, and the husband doesn't want the child. He wants to terminate, and she wants to carry. And that's a scenario where people are not even thinking of actually happens. But we've had moms come to us more than once where the husband doesn't want, for various reasons. It's not heartless, because to them the position that we've had individuals take seems that it's a sensible one. It's financial. They're currently struggling with their 2 or 3 children, and now they have a third or fourth on the way, and they're barely making ends meet, and then another child is going to come with a great financial responsibility. So we get various avenues that lead moms to our doors that they didn't actually walk into. Actually, today I had a call from a lady. She's on the street. She has an 8-year-old and a 5-month-old. She had a great job. She was a dental hygienist. She had a medical issue. She went to the hospital, and following that, she gave birth, and so she was an extended medical stay. She had her apartment. She had a car. She was able to take care of her finances, and then she lost her job, and the downward spiral began. So she turned in her car to get the money to pay the rent, but then she didn't have a job. She was really buying time. And then she is looking for a job but hasn't been able to secure employment. And so she lost her apartment. And she's on the street with her 5-month-old and her 8-month-old. So we've had a mom with a master's degree. She's not from the United States, but she's here legally, and she the location that she called us from is very remote, very rural, and she needed housing to be able to take care of her children. So these moms, these examples that I'm giving to you, they didn't ask for it, or they didn't get themselves into it. However, we have had moms who, against their parents' advice, made a decision to be with their boyfriend because at the time it just seemed like that they could face the world based on their love.
Right.
And over time, when the challenges came, the challenges proved to be greater than they were able to handle because of inexperience or other issues. And those individuals end up in situations where they're not able to support or maintain the pregnancy or the child. And various things happen, in those situations. But if someone were to say, well, they walked into it, even in a situation like that, they weren't aware that they were going to walk into a situation.
It's not like you put yourself in. Life happens. And what I'm hearing is the house is providing people crisis, being various crises in life happening.
Absolutely.
And I think that's amazing.
Absolutely.
That actually leads me to, you've mentioned the house, and so that our viewers, you can know, we're talking about the Haymarket House. And I would love for you to expound just a bit to us about how you actually came into the process of it and walk us through what maybe a typical day, if there's such a thing, what that looks like.
There's not a typical day at the house right away. We may walk in the doors expecting to do certain things, but the house and the families, so you have multiple families living at the house. We call it the Haymarket House. It's located in Haymarket, Virginia. It's a yellow house. It's the only yellow house on the street, and you can't miss it. Moms come to the house. A lot of times you will hear, like, again, this morning I was told when I asked one of our newest mom, how was your night? She said, oh my God, I have my own bed. I'm now sleeping in a bed and in a room. So these are things that we've heard, but a typical day could be, so our moms have schedules, like I said, and the schedule dictates almost every hour of the day, because 2 years is not a long time for us to get our moms on a path to new habits and new patterns and new living structure for independence and self-sufficiency. So our schedule, the mom schedules start, they have to be up and ready for the work day by 8:30. Okay. And so we're a Christ-centered ministry where the love that we show our moms is in our actions. So their day starts with devotion. Excellent. Followed by daily overview to include, because each mom's situation is different, their days constructed differently. So the overview allows them to prepare for the tasks to be completed for that day. They have chores, and they're required to do the chores, and every task that's completed, the moms get points. And so at the end of every 2-week cycle, because we're trying to mimic real life, so we don't have exchange of currency, but they get points that they use to go to a boutique where they can shop. So they're able to purchase personal hygiene items, maternity wear, items for their children. They're able to purchase, sanitary items for themselves from our boutique. They're able to get diapers, wipes, and formula. But mostly, our moms haven't had a need to purchase formula. But in our boutique, they're able to get all those things by earning the points that they achieve throughout accomplishing the activities of each day, based on their schedule. To include classes, so the chores, and then they have classes. For example, we have several moms that are attending GED classes, and the goal is to have them test out, followed by fitness. We have activities for walking built into the day so that they could take the babies and the children out. We have a huge yard, so they could play in the yard with their children. We have a garden that we're getting stood up so they are able to grow their own food.
That's great.
And feed their families and provide healthy options for themselves and their children. So that's just a typical example of what a day in the life of a mom at the Carry to Full Term House is like.
Sounds like a very busy day. That's excellent.
Very busy, yeah.
That helps to dispel that you're just, providing for someone who's not doing. So I love that you all are helping them. That sounds like, the program is gearing them, as you said, to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
It seems that the community has really had a tremendous effect and been an asset to the Haymarket House. Can you talk about that for a moment?
The community has been just the best. If to the point where it's very ideal. I'm thankful to God for allowing us to be in Haymarket and to be in the community that we're in. So we're literally wrapped around several communities, and ranging from Manassas to Haymarket, and they've just been wonderful. When we received the keys to the house, we really received an empty house. It's been clean and prepped for rental, and so we received an empty house, walls and floors, and we put a call out to the community to help us furnish the house, and literally by the first week of July, it was fully furnished.
Amazing.
Fully furnished, and it was all items donated from the community.
That's amazing.
We were still amazed because we're still getting items from the community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very collaborative, it sounds like.
Oh, yes.
And for a great cause. I want to talk a little bit more too about how people can get involved. What other ways can someone become involved with what you're doing?
Well, that's a great question, and we're always looking for volunteers. We have various areas and that individuals could serve in various capacities. Okay. We have house parents. We have house parents around the clock at the house. They're there to support the moms. They're there to answer questions. We have the garden, which is a community garden project. So all the green thumbers out there, they're able to come and teach our moms and help us maintain the garden. We have a need for mentors. Our moms are assigned, every mom is assigned a mentor. And it's very crucial that we have a mom assigned a mentor within the first 2 weeks of her arriving. The first 2 weeks are the most difficult 2 weeks for our moms, transitioning from whatever state they came from and they're arriving into a very structured setting. And so a lot of times they're not used to the structure. And the first 2 weeks, we have actually a 2-week folder that they must complete within the first 2 weeks. It's very difficult for individuals who have never done anything for themselves without it being, having their hands held to accomplish each task or having it done for them. This is a huge responsibility, and they almost always want to quit during the first 2 weeks, which is why it's very important that we have mentors to walk them through the transition, getting used to the home and getting used to the rhythm of the cycles of the house. Wow. We are always in need of couples mentors. Wow. Because there are fathers who are involved in the picture, and a lot of times they don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. We don't want perfect relationships because we don't know what those are. Right. And so you don't have to feel like you have to not have arguments or not have financial challenges. We want you to come with those things. So that way you can literally walk your real life situations out with these couples, because no matter how bad you think your situation is, they have no clue. Wow. So any information that you're sharing with them, it's now going to get them informed in a new way. So we are always in need of mentors. And we're just in need of volunteers in the office all the time. We have a large area, and on our website, it's also stated on there a lot of the ways that we're able to use help. We're in need of individuals who are skilled in crafts, sewing, computers, web development, to teach our moms. We're really teaching our moms how to sew. I remember the first mom that we held the class, she's like, I don't want to do this. That doesn't make sense. At the end of that class, she made a pillow. Wow. She felt so accomplished. And we're like, how do you feel? She's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I could make anything.
That's awesome.
So yes, we have sewing classes at the house every other Tuesday. So if anyone who's skilled in any capacity could come and teach a class at the house.
That's awesome. I want to talk about you and how you got involved with Carry the Full Term.
Oh my gosh, so I've really done a lot of reflecting on that. I remember when I go back, I went as far back as when I was young. My mom took a mom in to live with us, and she was about 8 months pregnant. And I don't know if that necessarily, but it comes up every time I'm trying to figure out how I've arrived here, aside from the fact that this is what God has placed in my world to be and do in this existence in the time that He's given me here. And so her daughter was born, and was at the hospital, and we came back to our house, and she stayed with us the entire time. And so I know that has significantly impacted me. My mother has always had taken in friends and relatives to live with us. And I just remember as early back as in high school, I went to Bethlehem Baptist Church in Alexandria, and I remember we went out to feed the homeless. And I'm Caribbean, and so moving to the United States, I did not think that population existed. I couldn't resolve the fact that I was feeding people without homes and unable to provide. In my mind, America has everything. And with having everything, it didn't have this. That impacted me. And when I left high school and went to college, I just continued volunteering. I've always volunteered, and I volunteered at crisis pregnancy centers, I've volunteered at rape crisis centers, I've volunteered at schools, I've tutored, I've just always served, and I've introduced my children to service as well. And I remember when I worked at several of the other crisis pregnancy centers, we would have moms come in and we would do the pregnancy tests, some of them negative, some of them positive, but it's the positive tests that give you insight into those individuals' lives. And they would tell you they don't have a place to stay. They're sleeping on park benches, they're sleeping in cars. And that tugged at my spirit for the longest time, and I really didn't know how to resolve that. So I started praying about it. My career was in Intel. I'm an Intel analyst, and so they didn't match, you know, and I started praying to God and asking for direction. And I started volunteering even more. I started advocating for the unborn because I thought that's the direction I was supposed to go, to give a voice to the unborn. And I started marching, and I started, promoting life, because the Bible says, I present to you life and death, choose life. And God is a God of the universe. He gives us answers to a lot of things, but this one is very clear. Choose life. He didn't give us caveats or condition. And so I stand on the fact that I'm choosing life. And I started praying about what I'm supposed to do. And I used to be at work, doing my analysis stuff. And it would just grab me in my spirit that I'm supposed to be doing something with housing, because I know that's where the greatest need, because I have had experience with moms sharing they need a place to stay. And I started seeking out places for me to volunteer with housing programs. And I found one that was being stood up for teenage girls. And then that was in the works, and other things transpired. And then I sought out I'm a photographer, and I use my photography to mentor high school students. So I just created a little condition in my plans for my mentoring program in case we had a high school student that was pregnant. And that evolved into, well, what if she needs housing? Because that is something that I'm very aware of as a crisis. And then I was like, okay, let's just create a little support program, maybe reach out to the community. And I started listing housing programs, but they were all very temporary. And that's when I realized, that's when my spirit was very quickened to know that more had to be done. And as the requirements went on for the mentoring program, so did the caveats for needing to support a pregnant teen. It grew, and I started looking for cool names for our teen mentoring program, and then I had to create a little condition in case we needed a nonprofit for a pregnant teen. And so Carried to Full Term rose to the surface, and I kind of brushed it aside because it wasn't cool, that's not hip. And so I said it, I secured the name, got went through the process of meeting the requirements, and I let it sat for a couple of years.
Wow.
And that's how that came about.
And it sounds like you really took a huge leap of faith. How did that affect you personally?
Oh God, do we have to talk about that part? That's the worst part.
Wow.
So
Say that again. That was what?
The worst part.
So your leap of faith
was the worst
in
part.
obedience to bring a program that's helped, you said, over 50 plus women sometimes a day.
Yes.
You doing that
is the worst part.
The worst part.
Because
tell us about that.
There was a death that had to take place so that life could begin, birth could start. And I didn't know how to let go of what I had worked to achieve so that God could take root to give new life to more than myself. So for me, that was the worst part initially, because I felt the pain of it. But like I said, there was a death that had to occur, and God had to do some work. I had been, a Christ follower and accepted Christ at the age of 8. So I had always followed the Lord and followed after what his teachings and as my Savior, as my guide, my Lord. And I've also had, I'm very curious, and I've also had a desire for intelligence and education. And so I pursued that, and I pursued that very aggressively, which is why I'm in Intel. So I have access
Right,
to
to
info.
information,
So right,
absolutely.
so it's kind of like I've arrived at what I was searching after, and so I could say that I worked that out. But that was very foolish also because God has had favor on me, and He has opened those doors, and He allowed me to live a life that's very comfortable. So when He was calling me to His work, I didn't want to do it because I felt the pain. I knew what's going to be financially hard. Plus, I hadn't saved enough money yet. Plus, I hadn't traveled yet. My children were little. I wanted to grow my fertility. I had all these things. God, you have to, hang on a second.
It's not time
It's
yet.
it's not time yet. So I made a deal with him though. I said, if you want me to leave Intel, have them fire me or make it, where it's very clear you want me to leave. And he wouldn't.
did.
No.
Wow.
He wouldn't. And I was very angry at God for making me choose. Because if they fired me, then I could say, well, now it's time for me to go do Carried to Full Term. If I left on my own, I had to say I walked away from good life, good living, good money, and it's because of that we're struggling. And we struggled. We had just bought our dream home. I mean, we spent 7 years looking for that house at the right price. And a year before we moved into it, it was just, I had arrived. I had finally achieved. I'm Caribbean, so you leave your third world style living and you've arrived in America and you've achieved it.
It's something different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And our kids were in a great neighborhood, great schools. We had, we were comfortable, we were great. We were great. Life was fantastic. So leaving that, I don't know what the salary would carry, great as a work sound that it might be, and then I was, working it out with God that, you did all that stuff with Moses and them. This is now, I have enough faith to believe that you can do it, but I don't know what that's going to look like. So no, I was hesitant. It was the worst. And a death occurred.
And then the rebirth.
So you felt the dying was very physically felt. Wow. As well as spiritually, but there's no comparing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely want to pray for the work that you're doing with Carried to Full Term and for the woman that you are currently servicing, and even the many more that are definitely still to come who may find themselves in whatever the situations in these crises in the future. So we definitely did pray for you and your family as well.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to pray. We're going to hold your hands really quickly. Oh, God, we thank you, dear Jesus. We appreciate you for this opportunity. We thank you, God, for this time. We thank you even for this, your servant. We thank you for Carried to Full Term. We thank you for the ministry. We thank you for the work. We thank you for the service. We even thank you for the people.